So just as a summary, just as an overview, one of the things I've noticed as I've been doing this, being the mentor advocate, and this is about the fourth or fifth time that I've done this, is that the feedback seems to be getting more and more positive, and there seems to be less areas or less comments where the program isn't working, which I think is a great compliment to the mentoring program committee that they're doing such a great job. So I just want to congratulate the mentoring program committee on that. So when I had the discussion with the mentees, one of the things I tried to do is break it into certain themes. So the themes that I've kept or I had throughout the discussion was the results and outcomes that they've been able to achieve, what feedback that they might have, what they saw as the benefits of the mentoring program, if they had any areas or suggestions for improvement. And finally, now that they've done the program for a year, and hindsight's 2020, what would they do differently being a mentee in the program? So just quickly to run through the results and outcomes. So we had about 5, and some of these have already been addressed by Elizabeth and what you've covered as mentors, but some of the results were that mentees had a broader scope and have more confidence in the range of issues that they can now handle, which is great to hear, and particularly their projects that they're working on. They also, one of them who wasn't a PM at the start is now a PM. They have a high level of confidence in their own personal ability. They also have a raised awareness of their own personal influence within their company. So that's a great outcome. I think that they now have they feel that they've got a greater influence in the organisation. And then the final result or outcome that we discussed was one particular mentee was able to encourage 2 of his technical specialists to take on new roles within their organisation and become associate architects, which I thought was a great outcome. So that person is actually already taking on mentoring, and Tony, you might mark that, but I'll have a chat to you about that person because they're a potential mentor next year. In regards to feedback, the other thing I'll talk on briefly is just the benefits. So these are the benefits that the mentees reported. So there was 4 of these. The first one is that they have a clearer sense of the difference between business plans and project plans. The second one was they now have a different way of thinking. So they, when they started off, and this person was a relatively new graduate, they might have had a very narrow way of looking at things based on their education. And now that they have some practical work experience, they have a broader way of looking at things and addressing issues. The other benefit they felt the program offered was the ability to speak to a PM who was outside of their organisation, and that made that particular PM both impartial and also, they like the informal sense of the mentoring sessions. And then the final benefit was improved relationship between this particular mentee as a project manager, improved relationships with the other members of their project team, and because of that change in the dynamics of the project team, it also allowed the dynamics of the relationships between the other project team members to improve as well, which I thought was a fantastic benefit. Okay, so what feedback did the mentees have? Well, there was 4 of these. They liked having a mentor that was, I've already addressed this, but it's having a mentor that is both impartial and informal, and they felt that this was invaluable, having that sounding board. Also, people felt that they were accountable for taking on their initiative, so the outcome or the feedback was that there was an increased accountability, an increase in initiative, and an increase in empowerment in regards to being in charge of their own career direction. Then there was the concept of a theme can be a bit restrictive. So while we talked about the theme of accountability, some of the mentees felt having that recurring in each session might be restrictive to the actual mentoring session. And also some of the feedback was that some mentees found that rather than using the mentoring records, they actually found that they had a profile that they created from the very first session based on who they were as an individual and what they wanted to achieve as outcomes from their mentoring programs. And then after each session, they kept this updated, and that's what they used to actually drive their actual mentoring sessions with their mentor. So the other improvements or suggestions was, just like there has been discussion around discussion groups for the mentors, there was a sense or felt that there could be a possible need for a mentoring program discussion group, whether it be in LinkedIn or some other way, but that it would be beneficial to both the mentors and mentees if people could sort of post things to a mentoring program group and then allow either mentors or other mentees to comment on that and make suggestions. And some people felt that another way of doing that was to actually do that through LinkedIn. So just like we have a chapter LinkedIn group, perhaps we have another specialised one or subset of that just for the mentoring program. Also, another suggestion was, just like we started the multicultural events this year, one of the suggestions was that perhaps we have a special event that will be based around a case study, and that mentors and mentees would come to that particular event and then be able to discuss what they thought or ways of tackling a particular scenario presented in that particular case study. So rather than people talking about their personal company or their personal situation, have some industry case study that's brought forward and as a group work through that. And the other suggestion was mentors to be identified based on their specialties, their competencies, or whether they were a particular subject matter expert. So some of the mentees felt that often they needed support from a particular facet of project management. Let's say it's risk management. So who are the mentors and who are the members within the PMI chapter who are a specialty in risk management? And if I have a problem in risk management, then I know I can bounce my ideas and my questions off that specialist.
I think a good example, if I can, Paul.
Yes.
I had a case of a mentee who was looking specifically for a mentor with agile experience, right? I really had a hard time finding him a mentor, and I did find him a mentor, but that required some swaps, so it was quite actually, but it wasn't straightforward.
Yeah.
However, if we did have strengths of each mentee specified, like Paul just mentioned, that would really help me in pairing.
And then, sorry, Anna, the idea was not that this person would change mentors or anything like that. It was just like, I have a question about risk management at this particular point in time. Who can I speak to about risk management? So it was just a one-off sort of situation, or maybe a couple of sessions. And it wasn't necessarily a changing of mentors. It's just like almost like a referral. So, like, who are the other mentors that I can speak about? And then finally, just on the 2020, if the mentees were to look back and start the mentoring program again, what would they do differently? And there was two areas or points that were made about this, and that is that they'd try and do less paperwork. They found the reporting onerous. So we're hoping that the new website will make a big difference to that. I know Tony's been trying to accomplish that for about 2 years now. And then the other one was, this was in regards to the results that the people wanted to achieve from the mentoring program. And that is that they wish they had been more specific at the beginning of the year as to the outcomes that they wanted to get from mentoring, because they felt that they had been a little bit too general, and that was a downfall for them throughout the program, is that at different times they felt that they, it might be improved relationships. What is improved relationships? Whereas, to have a better relationship with my manager, or to have a better relationship with my vendor, etc. Okay? And that sums it up. So, thanks everyone.